Have you ever had your drain line or your air conditioner back up and your AC stops in the middle of the night? Is there a way possibly you could prevent this or fix it on your own? Maybe it's time for you to get a new air conditioner, but you don't know how to get the right one for your home. I'm Jennifer Gangor from the Gangor Real Estate Team. We're here at Four Seasons Air Conditioning and Heating to get these answers to questions and many more, so that the next time an issue comes up, you're better prepared to handle the situation. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Great. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the company.
All right. So I have been here since 1985. My father and grandfather started the company. They were here in Orlando since early 50s doing air conditioning work. And we've evolved over the years, and now we focus on existing homes, working with homeowners, small business owners, and just the end users. We like it when we can solve problems.
Great. So one of the questions that we get a lot is, how long does an air conditioner typically last in Florida?
The official time is 13.4 years for the state of Florida. In reality, it can be anywhere from 8 years to, I've seen them last 22 years. So it depends on how well you maintained it, and really that's the main thing.
Okay. So if you're maintaining it well, are there certain signs that could be a possible indication that your AC might be on the way out?
Definitely. When you start seeing your power bill go up unexpectedly, then you know something is going on. When you see or have a lot of repairs. So when it starts costing money for repairs, that might be a sign that, okay, there's something going on inside this unit.
Okay. So you said repairs. What would be some common repairs that might be an indication of that?
Common repairs that are a danger sign: when you go through multiple compressors on a unit. That's the heart of the outdoor unit, and that's of course the most expensive part. So that's a sure sign that something's going on, and you may not want to put too much money into that unit. There's contactors, there's capacitors, and those are common. You'll have one or two of those fail during the life of a typical unit, and those are fine.
A lot of components within an air conditioner that you want to think of. Are there some common repairs that are not an indication that you might be needing to replace the unit?
Definitely. Common repairs, capacitors. If you've got what we call dirty power, the capacitor cleans that power up coming into the unit so they can wear out after a few years. That's common. Motors, same thing. They can wear out. If a capacitor gets weak, it can take out a motor. So a lot of it, again, has to do with maintenance. If you catch that capacitor before it goes bad, you might save the motor.
What about Freon? Is it normal to add Freon? Is that a common repair that comes up?
It's not. These are sealed systems, so the Freon shouldn't be going anywhere. When you need to add Freon, it either means it wasn't charged correctly from the beginning, or perhaps you've got a leak, and that's not a good thing. It can be difficult to find those leaks.
So not a common thing for that to come up in Florida?
No.
Okay. So if you have you're seeing signs that your air conditioner's on the way out, what are some that a consumer could do to check the repairs out to make sure they're not getting ripped off?
And that's the first thing is check out the AC company themselves. Go online, look for reviews, talk to friends, neighbors, check with the there's an air conditioning contractors association here in Central Florida. Talk to them and make sure that it's a member in good standing. But the big thing is try and find someone that's used that company, and you can get someone that really knows, yes, they came out to my house and they did a good job. That to me is the best thing. The other thing is ask questions when the technician's there. They're there working for you. So no matter how crazy the question might be, you should be able to ask it and get an answer. You should also get options. When a technician's working on the AC, they should come back in and they should tell you, well, this is what I found wrong, and here are your options. It might be one option. It might be to have 3 or 4 options.
Now, my parents always raised me to get 3 estimates because I don't trust anybody, and that's just how I was raised. So if you're getting those estimates, what kind of different systems are available?
So there's a lot of different systems nowadays. We used to just have a single system. So you turned it on, it came on 100%, and then it would shut off, and then it would come back on and shut off. Now we have variable capacity systems where they can modulate all day long. So you set your comfort level, and the system just modulates to maintain that all day long. Usually does not shut off all day. In between, we have multiple speed units that are kind of in between that single speed to the modulating. So each step up, with the more speed you've got or the more modulation, the more comfort you'll have.
Okay. So how do you figure out which system's right for your particular house?
That's actually really easy, and it's probably the most overlooked thing. You run a heat load on the house. So your contractor should come in, should measure your windows, should look in the attic, look at the insulation, look at the age of the house, and through a lot of math, they put together a heat load, and it tells us how much heat is coming in through all your exterior doors, windows, walls, ceiling, and that'll tell us what size AC we need.
Oh, learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Now, when you're getting that heat load done and they're trying to figure out which system works, is there a difference between brands?
There's a difference between brands in that brand A's 3-ton unit might not put out the same amount of cooling as brand B's 3-ton unit. So we look at all that too, and that factors into the heat load. We get phone calls all the time. People will say, I just want a price on a 3-ton unit. But you might have a 3-ton unit that's really producing 3¼ tons of cooling, and if we give you a price on a unit that's only producing 2 7/8 tons of cooling, you might not be able to cool in the middle of the summertime. So that's the big difference between manufacturers.
So it really sounds like one of the main things you really want to do is get the heat load done first and then start investigating the brands and trying to figure it out that way.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, another thing that we come across in home inspections when we see somebody replacing a unit is they figure out whether or not they have to swap out the inside and the outside, the handler and the condenser.
Mm-hmm.
Does that matter if you get both of them changed at the same time? Do they both go at the same time?
They do. Think of it this way, just like a car. You've got your engine and transmission. Well, you want those two to match up. So they need to work together. If you don't get a match set on your air conditioner, indoor and outdoor at the same time, or within a few years of each other, you really don't know if they're going to work together. So
which in the long run maybe could shorten the life?
It'll shorten the life. It'll probably shorten the capacity. I've seen a lot of system out there where it'll work in the air conditioning mode, flip it to heat, and it doesn't heat very well.
Now, if somebody's recommending to only maybe switch one out to get a lower price, would that also maybe be a red flag to a consumer that they're not maybe going with somebody that knows what they're talking about?
That definitely is. Definitely is. It was actually in the code for a short time that you had to have a match set. They took that out of the code because they decided that wasn't something they should be involved in. But the reality is, as a licensed contractor, it's my job to do the right thing. And if I'm putting, I call it bad money after good. You're spending that customer's money, and in just a few years, they're going to have to replace everything again.
Okay, great. What is your opinion about maybe if you have a one system unit to getting, when you're replacing it, putting two systems? Is there an advantage to doing that?
There can be. More often than not, what we do nowadays is we'll do the ductless systems where you can mount that. We do it a lot of times in a bonus room or a home office or even a master bedroom. Just had one not long ago where they like to keep it 65 degrees at night. No need to keep the whole house that cold. So we just put a ductless unit in there. They can crank that unit down as cold as they want, and the rest of the house can stay at 75.
Wow. So it really depends on that person's preferences.
Yes.
Gotcha. So we went over doing a heat, what is it, a ton load?
Heat load.
Heat load,
Yes.
Okay, to determine the size. I've been in inspections and I've seen where the house is really small and they put in this enormous air conditioner. Are you then overpaying for that? Maybe they didn't go through all the right steps. Why would you do that?
Yeah. The reason it gets done is I see that a lot of times in a flip house where they'll take maybe a used unit, throw that in there, and it's just a unit that cools. What's going to happen, you might be running a 5-ton unit, but you only have a 3-ton heat load, so you're using a lot more electricity. You're not dehumidifying because the unit doesn't run long enough to dehumidify. So yeah, you're creating all kinds of problems.
So yeah, so we see that. I mean, obviously a lot in the flip. So in a consumer's mind, they could think that hey, they're trying to sell it as I got a brand new air conditioner, but they're going to end up spending more on their utility bills.
Yeah, a lot more, and they won't have the comfort. That's the other.
Understand. Now, I know for me personally, I don't know what a SEER or a ton is. Can you explain to me what a SEER is? Obviously, the air conditioner doesn't weigh tons.
Right.
So if you could put that a little bit more layman terms, I'm sure that helps some people out.
Sure will. So a SEER, that's easier. A SEER is just like, think of miles per gallon. So it's miles per gallon for an air conditioner. So the higher that SEER is, the less electricity it uses to produce that cooling. So SEERs range on today's units anywhere from 14 SEER. Some of the ductless units are up to 30 SEER, but most units cap out around 20, 21 SEER. So a 21 SEER unit is much more energy efficient than a 14 SEER. But a 3-ton 14 SEER and a 3-ton 21 SEER will produce the same amount of cooling. So tons is the amount of cooling that it produces, where SEER is just how much electricity it uses.
Gotcha. And then the SEER would just really be based on maybe how big your house is?
No, it's actually the other way around. SEER is, you can have a small house and have a high SEER. You can have a big house and have a high SEER. But the tonnage, if you have a small house, it'll be a small tonnage. If you have a big house, it'll be a larger, a 5-ton or larger unit.
Makes sense. Now, are there any disadvantages to having a super high efficiency system?
Not really. The initial cost is more, but it's going to pay for itself. So traditionally, with the more expensive units, you get more bells and whistles. We've got the ability, for example, we can monitor your system. We know you'll get an email, we'll get an email, and we'll get an alert popping up on our computer if you've got a temperature issue in the house, or if there's a issue with a component. So the higher end units tend to have those little bells and whistles, which are nice. Most of the time, those units you can automatically control from anywhere you've got internet access. So you just pull it up on your phone. If you go on vacation and forget to set it back, it's no big deal. You pull it up on your phone and do it.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. You can look at your history also. So you can see, wow, for last month I used this many hours of air conditioning. And you can kind of use that to help yourself decide where you want to set that thermostat. If you want to set it up a little bit warmer to save a little more power bill.
So for us math geeks out there, they're looking at the data and things like that. You can see where your utility bills are maybe spiking a little bit and maybe get a heads up on maybe if something's going wrong with your system before it actually goes wrong.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So when you're replacing your air conditioning, is like with cars and things like that, we have maintenance schedules that we need to adhere to. For an air conditioner, is there a general maintenance schedule that you should be following to try to extend the life of your system?
Definitely is. At a minimum, once a year, you should have a maintenance done. We recommend twice a year. And the reason being, air conditioning is the most important thing. We want to make sure it's in good shape before we get that summertime heat. You don't want it to fail during the summer. But the other flip side of that coin is we recommend twice a year because we hardly use any heat. So that heat sits almost 10, 11 months before it's used again. And that's when we tend to find the failures because it's been sitting so long. Something's gone wrong that you didn't know about, and you never turn it on until it really gets cold and you need it. So we recommend 2 checkups a year, one for cooling, one for heating.
What do they typically do in a maintenance?
What they should be doing might be different than what they do, yes. So what they should do, number one, check the operation. Everything we do, all of our techs have, it's all electronics. So all of their gauges, their temperature probes, they're all Bluetooth. So everything is sent to that customer's file, and we have a complete record. So we can compare year over year.
Oh, wow.
What's going on with the unit. So that's important to kind of get a history. So right then we can kind of interpolate and say, this is not good. You need to budget in the next few years for a new unit. Besides that, the tech should be cleaning the unit. You go through and you do a general cleaning, you wipe down. The units are wet inside and they're cold, so there's almost always some sort of organic growth. Wipe that down, brush the coil down, check the filters, but most important, clear the drain line. In Florida, that's always a problem.
Now you said drain line. Now I've heard a lot of things about what you should be pouring down your drain line, whether it be white vinegar or bleach or water. Is there something you should be pouring down?
And that's a tough one. The manufacturers have all said don't pour bleach. The gas that comes off of bleach can attack the metal inside the unit and create freon leaks. So they don't like bleach. Some have even said don't use vinegar. We still use vinegar. We take about a half a cup of vinegar and a cup of hot water. And we'll pour the vinegar, then follow up with the hot water.
Now, should you put the vinegar in and then wait a little bit and then pour the hot water, or just like right after each other?
You can do it pretty much right after. Yeah.
Now, if you're like me and you forget to put this in, and what normally happens is it's about 12 o'clock in the morning and I have a clogged drain line. Is there something as a homeowner you can do? Because now I don't want to call you at 1 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock and just spend all that money. What can I do at that point?
It's definitely the easiest thing to do. If you have a wet dry vac, a shop vac, you can go outside to where your drain line is and put that around there, and you'll hear it eventually break loose, and you'll hear the glug glug. And but just make sure it's a wet dry vac and not your house vacuum.
Probably not going to do it.
That will do it one time, and then it'll die. The other thing that'll work if you don't have a wet dry vac, it sounds counterintuitive, but if you take a garden hose, same thing on the outside where that drain comes out, you take it and you hold it over it and turn that hose on, got decent pressure, and I always say count 1001, 1002, pull the hose away, and you should get a giant glug and some crud coming out.
Well, that sounds gross.
Yes, it is. But it works.
All right. How important are air filters?
Very important. So an air filter, everyone thinks it's there to keep your air clean. Honestly, the main thing it's there for is to keep your air conditioner clean. So you've got all that air that's moving through the system. You've got, if you've ever looked inside of a unit, it looks like a radiator. It's got all these fins, aluminum fins, and those are cold and they're wet. So as air goes through, it's going to attract any dust, any dirt, and it's going to stick to it. So the idea is the filter catches those things before it hits that coil. And then the nice side benefit is your air is a little bit cleaner. A lot of the new units, we use a 5-inch thick filter. Much better job of cleaning the air and actually can be healthier air. We've got filters that are up to a MERV 16, which is another rating system we use, and that's just short of what you have in a operating room.
Now, does it make sense to pay for a higher price filter, or are there some filters that you don't even want to waste your money on, like the really cheapy filters?
Right. And that's it. I always say if you can hold a filter up and see through it, throw it away. You don't want that filter. The best filters are the pleated filters, the wavy filters. And there's a lot of good ones out there. Most of the hardware stores have them. 3M makes a nice one. And then like I say, if your unit will take the larger, the 4-inch or 5-inch thick, those are the best.
Now you mentioned MERV. What is a MERV?
MERV is a whole nother rating system. It rates how efficient a filter is and the particles that it catches. And I couldn't even begin to explain it all, but MERV 16 is the highest. Most filters in the store you'll see will range anywhere from a MERV 6 up to a MERV 12.
Now, does that extend the life of the filter in any way, or should you be changing it on a regular schedule regardless of whatever MERV rating it has?
You should definitely check it on a regular schedule. Filters are really crazy. The dirtier a filter gets, the better it filters. So everyone always says, if you hold a filter up and it looks horrible. Well, if I can see a little bit through it, that means air's still getting through it. So I'm probably going to reuse that filter. But the higher the MERV rating, the smaller the hole in the filter. But a good filter manufacturer will also have more surface area there. So a better filter can actually last longer.
Okay. So taking a look at the filter, besides the MERV rating, just seeing how it's overly constructed makes a difference as well.
Yeah. My filter I change once a year. It's a 5-inch thick filter, and if I unfolded it, it'd be about 20 feet long.
Well, that doesn't happen at my house. Do cleaning your vents help extend the life of your air conditioner as well as the filter?
Definitely where the intake vents are. So the return air, we call them, or intake vents. You'll see those tend to be the ones that get the dust built up on them. And definitely if you take the vacuum and just vacuum those off, that's a plus. The supply air vents, the air that blows out, it looks nicer, but it doesn't really affect the system.
Now, I see everywhere that somebody's advertising to clean your vents, and whether it be the tile guy or the carpet cleaner, doesn't matter who's cleaning your vents.
It really does. You want someone that knows what they're doing. And first of all, you have to ask, why am I doing this? Most people probably don't have a need on cleaning those ducts. If you just moved into a house and you're allergic to animal dander, and the people before you had animals, then you might want to have the ducts cleaned. But for the average person, there's usually no need. That a lot of times can stir up more dust than it really takes care of.
Now, you mentioned pets. I have 3 very large hairy dogs. Does this change the maintenance schedule with your air conditioner, whether you're cleaning it more or what have you?
It definitely, you want to check that filter a little more often. Yeah. So it's just more opportunity for more dirt and dust.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're very hairy, so I probably need to clean it more than I do. Now, when you're swapping out your air conditioner, you said change the inside and the outside units. How does the thermostat come into play? Should you be swapping that out as well?
And that, most of the time we like to change everything out so everything's got the same warranty. And it depends on the system. Recently we've had a lot of customers that have the Nest thermostat or the ecobee thermostat. And those are good thermostats, and if they're happy with them, it's adapted to their lifestyle already, we can leave that. Some of the new systems are communicating systems, so they're a computer basically. So you do have to change out the thermostat. We have some that it's a 7-inch tablet that's mounted on the wall, and very, very easy to use. A lot of features, geofencing, where you can link it to all the phones in the house, and as soon as you get a mile away from the house, it'll go into setback mode, and when you start heading back that way, it'll kick the temperature back down.
Now, other than the technological advantages of Smart Nest, are there other advantages that make it worth to pay that money versus maybe a standard thermostat?
They're definitely more accurate. So that's the biggest thing. Where the old mercury bulb thermostats, the round ones that we used to have, they were always plus or minus 3 degrees. The new ones are plus or minus 0.3 of a degree. So much more accurate. So the potential for a lot more comfort is there. You don't have the big temperature swings. Okay. So if you're looking for more comfort, besides all the bells and whistles, they're worth it.
Gotcha. So with repairs and everything that we've gone over, we've seen the indication that maybe we need to get a new air conditioner. Is there any tips that you give somebody who's in the market for a new air conditioner so they don't get ripped off and they can find a good deal on one for them?
Definitely. The first thing you want to do, you want to check with the state. All licensed air conditioning contractors are registered with the Department of Business Regulation, and it's really easy to go on there and check and make sure who you're dealing with is actually licensed to sell air conditioning systems in the state. That's important because the DBPR is kind of like the police agency of air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, all those trades. And if an air conditioning company does the wrong thing, they can actually they can fine them, they can take their license away. So they've got some teeth. So check and make sure they're licensed, make sure they're insured. And when we say insurance, we don't mean, do you have insurance on your vehicles? Do they have liability insurance? Do they have workman's comp?
Just in case there's an accident or they damage something during install.
Exactly. Yeah, things do happen. So those are really important. And again, it's extremely important to feel comfortable with the AC company. So as part of that process of getting those 3 quotes, as you sit with each salesperson or service tech, whoever's quoting that job, it's important to make sure you feel comfortable, because most units have a 10-year warranty. So you may be tied to that company for 10 years. You can kick them out at any time, but ideally they installed it, you'd want to continue with them, and you want a company that you feel comfortable with, and they're going to be responsive. And that's probably one of the last things. I would make sure that you can get a hold of them.
Make sure they're
It's-
around at 1 o'clock in the morning when your air
Yes.
conditioner's clogged.
Yes, 1 o'clock in the morning, or are they off on vacation and they didn't have anyone else there to answer the phone or run those service calls. The other thing is, and I hate to say it, in Florida, businesses fail. And
we absolutely do.
it is nice to know that you've got a company that's been around a long time.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us and go over these questions. I know I found it very helpful. I'm sure everybody else that's watching this would too.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please keep an eye out for the next in our series. We will be doing these hopefully on a monthly basis. I'm Jennifer Gangwar for the Gangwar Real Estate Team. Thank you for now. Bye.